to shoot a explanation, channel introduction kind of video. Just why am I doing this? What are my thoughts on the project that I'm doing here? What my goals are for the channel I want to do here. So I guess we got two things, right? We got the YouTube channel, and we got the bike project. Hopefully the first of many, I guess. I guess I'll start with the YouTube channel because it's on my mind. So the reason I'm doing this, first and foremost, is just to kind of create a personal log, sort of do I guess in a way a little bit of a video diary kind of thing. So I'm calling it a log because that's a manly way of saying diary. So a man diary, a log, which is why I'm calling the channel Cycle Log. Kind of went back and forth on that. Anyway, so why am I doing this? Well, I've been living vicariously through a lot of you for a lot of months, a lot of you being people on YouTube. I guess it's kind of a way for me to give back. I've been watching other people's projects, and that's the crux of it. I've been being able to live vicariously, and just watch somebody enjoy their bike. Hopefully somebody, a few of you, if it's two, it's fine. If a couple people enjoy what I'm doing with the bike, that'll be cool. You too can kind of get an idea of what it's like living with an old Ducati 916. So I'm putting it on YouTube for that reason. Otherwise, I would have just, I might have just written this down, but I think I would rather engage with a video. So, I thought about just doing this for a private thing, but like I said, there's been a couple other people who've done projects where, I really enjoy just watching that and just kind of being like, it's almost like I get to participate in the project, There's some ulterior motives too. I enjoy YouTube. It's my main medium consumption. So going into a project, I often enjoy things when I get to participate in them. So this will be me participating. And then I like to tinker with multimedia stuff. So this is an excuse and for me to use different applications. It doesn't even have to be video editing, though I've started to do some video editing stuff, but I enjoy doing graphic generating programs, graphic design programs. I'm rambling, but what I'm trying to say is this will consolidate a couple of interests and give me an outlet. I get some free time now and then, and so this will be a way to consolidate all those interests and have a creative outlet, I guess, But then, like I said, I get to give back because I've enjoyed a lot of other people's stuff. So I think that kind of summarizes the channel. I hope some people watch. I hope somebody subscribes. I don't expect to become the next Everride or what's his name, Yami Noob, or any of those guys. I don't expect much, but hopefully some people will see this. Anyway, the project is probably more interesting than me and my channel, right? So what do we have here is a 1995 Ducati 916. It's currently 2018 when I'm starting this. I'm sure it'll push on for a few years. I started riding when I was in 2007. 2007 was when I started riding. I got bit by the bug late 2006 in Iraq. I had just gotten to Iraq. My buddy, my best friend, Gooch, maybe he'll watch. I don't remember exactly how it happened, but we were. You're living in these tight spaces. You're talking all the time, and he starts talking about how he wants to get a sport bike, and for him it was the Gixxer GSXR, Suzuki's sports bike. He wanted a 750, and that just got me engaged, And so we had a little PX nearby, and they sold magazines. So I went and bought a copy of Cycle World, and man, I was hooked. Just started flipping through the pages, and I was like, boy, this looks like a cool hobby, right? So that's how I got started riding bikes. the reason I bring all this up is I want to believe it was that first episode of Cycle World, first issue, and it may have been. It would have been December 2006. I'll look it up. It may have been January 2007. It was very early in the deployment, considering I can still vividly picture the bunk and the tent where I was. So you can I can place the timeline there. But on the cover of this magazine was the brand new at the time Ducati 1098, and it was so exotic, so cool to me. It was a Ferrari, and then I started reading, and they're saying, well, not only did Ducati improve upon the design, blah blah, the flowery language, but hey, it's available for I don't know, $12,000-$13,000, which is just a pittance more than a Japanese sports bike. And I was blown away. I was like, so let me get this straight. You can get a Ferrari on two wheels for affordable. So from there on, I was hooked, and I've been a Ducati guy ever since. I started out with a Gixxer as well, though. Separate love story. I fell in love with the Gixxer 600, and that was my first bike. I just loved that machine. I owned it for 6 or 7 years. Went with me to Germany because after I got back from Iraq the first time, I was restationed in Germany. I took it all over Autobahn. I took it on the Nürburgring. That was my first love, So I loved that bike. But the whole time, I was cheering for Ducati, and at the end of that first deployment, I was avidly following the news of MotoGP. I was totally hooked, man. Totally hooked. So ever since, I've wanted a Ducati superbike, we'll call it, because it's Series 998, 99, etc., up till Panigale today. And I think for a lot of us, there was an initial fear of maintenance costs and everything. And for sure, there's still, you buy a brand new Panigale without the aftermarket stuff, I'm sure there's still a bit of a maintenance nightmare. But something like this is surprisingly affordable. So one of the cool things about Ducati is that most of their engines have common components, and so I kind of have learned that parts on these things aren't that bad. This thing has been not particularly the 916. Believe it or not, the first one I really liked was the 999, which I'm a little embarrassed to admit because apparently that's a lot of people found it ugly. But I liked it. I still like it. And then of course the 1098 was the one I initially hooked me, right? Someday I'll own all of those. Right now, so in between, I've owned two Monsters since, just so I could become officially a Ducati sneak, right? So I actually own one. I owned T-shirts of Ducati before I owned a bike. And anyway, one of my kind of hobbies, or something I do to pass time every now and then, is go up on Craigslist and I go looking for bikes, and I started seeing a bunch of 916s for sale. In a lot of cases, they had issues, and they were threatened to be parted out. And I was looking, I'm like, man, you can get a 916 or 748, more 748s, I'd say, for not too much money. And I kind of got the wheels turning. So a couple months ago, I just decided, it's now November, I'd say late September, I decided, you know what, I'm going to sell the Monster I got. I loved my Monster 900. And I'm going to find a 916. So I'm sure the way I want to present this story on the channel, I'll try to upload these in order so it'll make chronological sense, even though this is now it's now mid-November and I've already owned this for a while. I just got back from a business trip where I made a lot of money, and so I had some cash set aside, and I was going to sell the Monster first, but this one popped up, and so the history on it is this is, like I said, it's a 95, it's a 916, which is, I think, cooler than a 748, It's a legit leader bike, or actually, it's not quite a leader bike. And it just kept popping up in my feed, and I just kept, every time I search almost every day on Craigslist, and I'd see it. So I would see it, and it was looking lonely. Anyway, the backstory on it that was explained in the ad is, I guess I should start with the major red flag, is that it was behind dues. I live in the great state of California. As many of you know, California is very, 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 well, I'll just say it, it can be a frustrating place to live. California always gets the money it's due. Registration fees are very pricey for vehicles out here, and those registration fees, if they're not paid, they just accumulate. California has no forgiveness. So if this thing sits in your garage, if your bike needs a license plate and it sits in your garage and you don't put it on non-op status, they'll blast you with fees. And this thing had been, well, it was $1,100 back in fees, over $1,100. It was closer to $1,200. And the other thing was, it was apparently a theft recovery, which is why your astute viewers will notice that there's no side panels. It came that way. I could go in some detail too. The keys have been gashed out on both the key, the ignition, and the lock. Yeah, it's in rough shape. And so I thought about it, and I saw a couple other ones. There was one there was a 748 in LA that was even worse condition, but way cheaper. Guy was asking initially, I think when the ad went up, he was asking more reasonable, like 21 or 22, $100, and the ad went up to 25 eventually. Anyway, so I went out and saw it, and well, obviously it's here now. I actually saw it one day, went out with my best friend Rob. Rob and I drove down. We looked at it. I didn't have a warm and fuzzy. I still hadn't sold the Monster. I've got 4 kids, a wife, rent to pay. So I didn't have a warm and fuzzy that day, but I gave it a couple of days, which is great because there's no buyer's remorse or none of that, panicky stuff. And about a week later, I bought it. I drove down, picked it up, and I want to do like a little clip on that. But good news is I did pay off. So I bought it. I paid off paid the back fees. I was able to get the state to reduce them a little bit. They can work with you. Okay, so that brings me to like kind of, I guess what I'm really trying to get at. Why, right? Why not stick with the running Monster? Well, that answer is because I've always wanted to try a Ducati Superbike. Why a busted one? And not for a YouTube video, for sure. Like, the YouTube is just a secondary idea on top of the project. Maybe some of the YouTube stuff begot this idea, but it's not it might have been the cause, but not the reason. I don't know how to describe that. You see what I'm saying. My philosophy on the vehicle is that if I spend time working on it, I'll get to know it. And a lot of you will know a lot about Ducati. There's a linear evolution from 851, 888, 916, 996, 998, 999, 1098, 1198, 1199, 1299. Excluding the Panigale, you basically, up until the 1198, the engine is like, it evolves by like piece at a time. Okay, we're going to change this out, we're going to change that. This bore and stroke will get a little bit bigger. But the Desmo Quattro engine that came out in the late 80s was absolutely like way similar to, it's direct lineage, right? Direct evolution between that original Desmo Quattro motor to the final 1198 motor. And then even the first version of the Panigale had has a lot in common. I mean, tons in common. Really, the Panigales motor is a slightly adjusted Tetrastrata Evolution motor. But I've never had my hands on them. I've read about them and all this shit. So here it is. I get to learn about it. I get to pull it apart, dig into it, and it costs me grand total. I paid $1,800, $700 for $2,500, right? And I got a Ducati Superbike. It's not the best in the world, though. I could see this being a value to someone. It's a value to me. I wouldn't have wanted to pay more than I did. I may have paid more for this machine in mint condition. Might be worth a lot more. But that's not where my mindset is. I don't expect to ever flip this. I may lose money. It may be at the end of the day, when this project is all said and done, that I end up with a pile of red and silvery or goldish silver parts sitting on the floor. I don't know. I don't think so. I think this bike will run pretty soon. But for a $2,500 investment, essentially neutral because I sold the one bike, call it an investment in time and blood, sweat, and tears. And yeah, that's what I'm investing, and it gives me a chance to learn about a Ducati Superbike from the inside out. So one of the things I kind of thought about is this a restoration? Is this a rebuild? Is it a refurbishment? Probably more on the angle of refurbishment, refreshment, maybe. I don't expect this to become a show bike. I want it to be ridden. I really do want it to be on the road again. I want to experience the ride of a Ducati Superbike as much as I experience the internal guts of one. And this is the granddaddy, of course, right? The 916. Even though the 888 predates it, the 916 is, it's kind of like saying, there were people who were flying before the Wright brothers. There were a few people who did glider things, and there were people who did balloon flights. But the first people to fly were the Wright brothers, right? Kind of the same thing with this. This was the first, sort of. I mean, there were Ducati race bikes well before that, but the current, what defines Ducati, and there's more truth to that, really, than I'm giving you credit for, because, the 888 is Cagiva. This starts under Cagiva, and this is such a successful thing under its own. It's what enables Ducati, my favorite motorsport company, to become its own successful business. And so I'm excited to work on it. I was saying about refreshment versus rebuild versus restoration. Some part of me kind of scoffs at restoration, like baby boomers rebuilding hot rods. Even though I actually participated in that. When I was in high school, my dad, my brother, and I we rebuilt a '65 Mustang. But I can tell you, we were not aficionados. We were just a couple guys in the garage having fun. A great way to highlight that is, if you know anything about old Mustangs are supposed to be, the engine inside Ford muscle cars is supposed to be Ford blue. And when we took the engine out and rebuilt it, we of course had to have it painted, and it was an option, what color are you going to paint it? And the guy's like already mixing up the batch of Ford blue, and we're just a couple dorky guys. We decided on red, a reddish orangish kind of color, because it looks cool to us. That Mustang we got running. We freshened up the engine. We made sure the brakes worked. We were refreshing the upholstery, and then it became a vehicle that we used. And then we worked on it when we needed to. That's a lot of what I want to see with this. Look, I'm not an expert, so I'm sure some people are going to watch this channel and have their minds melt. There will be some things I will do that will be non-pure. And if you want to buy this bike and rescue it from my sausage finger hands of, you're going to unsophisticated, un-Ducati modifications. Look, I'm not going to put an extended swing arm or anything stupid like that. I'm not talking about that, but I can't refurbish it or can't restore this. I don't have the knowledge, the time, the interest. I just want to make a working motorcycle, but I also kind of want to have a motorcycle I can provide tender love and care to, you know. So I do want to get in and I want to clean all this up. I don't know that the engine's going to come out and get repainted and all that. That would be kind of a cool pipe dream. It'll probably get new plastics. Tank will probably get some paint touch-ups because it needs all that. I'm going to go through and scrub this thing head to toe and, you know, really give it the affection that she so needs, right? It's a beautiful bike. But not a restoration. And like I said, just scoff at that. I don't want to be obsessed. I just want to get the machine to experience the machine as much as I can. And that's as authentic as I can be, I think. So yeah, it's going to be a fun project. Since this will be the first video, you know, as I bought it, I've actually chipped away a little bit through the magic of video editing. You know, of course, timeline-wise it won't make sense, but as I bought it, we had problems with, basically, as advertised, there was a problem with some fittings that go into the fuel tank. They were leaking. There's a line that runs from the bottom of the fuel tank over here to where the throttle body sits, and those fuel lines were actually taped and leaking through the tape, because apparently duct tape is how you saw the fuel line leak. There's an O-ring damaged in the fittings, and there's one of the short forks is leaking oil. When the bike was, like I said, a theft recovery. I think I really briefly touched on that. Real quickly, it was in a guy's house, and somebody stole it from the guy's house. I think ended up pretty far away, because I think it was up in NorCal, like near like San Jose area, and it ended up down in Oceanside by the Marine base, and so that's bad. So it got recovered. It was taken to a guy's shop, yeah. So those were the issues as advertised. I'm sure I'll cover it in videos as I've uncovered some other things. Yeah, one of the things I do know about it is it definitely has sat for a while. I've done a bit of digging. I don't want to get too much in the previous owner. Oh, that was, gosh, how did I forget to mention that? The bike was a lean cell. That was another thing. It was abandoned at a shop. I keep mentioning the shop when I picked it up. The previous owner had it arranged to be sent to that shop after it was stolen, and then just abandoned it, and it had sat there for at least a year and a half. Now the bike, now that's as it was advertised, but it turns out I think it spent a large portion of its life living in a garage. I think from what I can tell from the previous owner, I have an individual who one of the earlier owners actually is a mechanic, and left his card on the bike, and I talked to him, and it turns out that he had seen the bike a number of years after he sold it in 1999. So 95, it's now 2018, and it had been sitting for a number of years. And so he had freshened up. He described it as a barn find, covered in dirt and whatnot. And so there's a portion of its life there where it had been sitting, and it definitely has been sitting in the mechanic shop. So it's sat for a while. Mileage is just under 20,000 for a bike this old. That's a really low mileage, so it hasn't even hit its second valve change or a belt change, though. I mean, it should have had it every 2 years, but has been used. So I'm a guy who does tend to use his vehicles and take them out. So that's kind of my mindset on it. It should be a fun project. I can't wait for to kind of put the videos together. It's going to be fun. Hopefully there's a response. I hope people enjoy it like I've enjoyed other people's videos, and live vicariously through me. You know, you guys can see what it's like to just decide to pick up a cheap old Ducati sport bike and dig into it and try to get the damn thing on the road, you know. Who knows, this could become a series of things, you know. Hopefully this project gets to a very good conclusion, or a good point, and you know, if the videos are successful enough, I may do it again with another vehicle. Probably Ducati. Always hopefully, you know, as many Ducatis as possible is good. Yeah. I got a GoPro too. I'm kind of running out of stuff to say, but I feel like I want to add details because I've been thinking of getting this video out for a long time, and now that I've got the video camera running and everything, I want to go, right? So maybe in the future I'll do some, you know, the moto vlog thing. I just got a GoPro off eBay, and so I'm figure out how to mount that once this is running. And I live in the Los Angeles area, so you know, PCH is nearby, Azusa Canyon Road. Highway, I think it's 22, goes up to Wrightwood. There's a run to Big Bear that's amazing. So we could get some cool footage that way. I got some buddies who ride who, they got some cameras, so maybe we can put some stuff together. But as of now, we have a machine sitting in the garage. As the video chronologically unveils, there would be a monster sitting here. You'll see it. But I sold it a few days ago. But what we have now is a machine that needs some work, and we're going to get to it. It's going to be cool to hear it at least run, and it's going to be a pretty neat moment to take it out on the street. It's going to take a lot of work. So I'm looking forward to everyone coming along the ride. And, you know, what do you got to, you know, it's a YouTube video, so I'm supposed to say, like the, you know, what do you think? Put it in the comments down below in the box and hit the screen. You know, hit the subscribe. Send me a message. I'll probably have some contact info out there if enough people, if there's any response. But yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching if you are watching, and like I said, I hope you enjoy this like I've enjoyed other videos.
Video number 2.
There you go.
Don't stall this time.
And don't scratch these people's rims, okay? They look expensive.